Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I am Kyra, and I am here with Dr. Serena. So welcome to the Glow Up Girl podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. Why don't you get started by telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So I'm a naturopathic doctor, and the quick and easy explanation is it's about 4 to 5 years of medical school. So it's still the same federal funding as conventional medicine, but in naturopathic school, the first 2 years are all conventional medicine based, like basic sciences, labs, diagnostics, imaging, pathology, all of that. Then we have our first set of board exams. The next 2 to 3 years are all the ologies. And we also take pharmaceuticals as well because, well, people come in, being on them or interested in them. And then there's herb drug nutrient interaction. So really having that span of, yes, we know the pharmaceuticals, and then there's clinical nutrition, botanical medicine, homeopathy, hydrotherapy, chiropractic type work, physical medicine, IV therapy, and minor surgery. So it's really just a few modalities.
Right.
So it's really more tools in our toolbox to not just treat the patient, but to get to the root cause of disease. Mm-hmm. Then we have about 3 days worth of board exams when we finish. So what's cool is we are primary care trained. However, a lot of us tend to gravitate not just to a specialty like, more in conventional medicine, you'll hear endocrinologist, cardiologist. Mm-hmm. We can't call ourselves that because we're not, there's like no board exam per se, but certainly specialize, and we have organizations specific to those interests. And then we'll also, I also have colleagues who are really into homeopathy or just really into minor surgery. Like they can't wait to fill up their office doing procedures.
Wow.
So there's so much leeway and there's so much we can do. And coming into my own path, when I discovered this medicine about 15 years ago, when I was 19, my freshman year of college, I was always in a mindset of wanting more out of life. And even those really big questions, what's our life purpose? Why are humans even here? Like, what is this species all about? I also grew up where I couldn't really ask those questions, or it wasn't fostered per se. But I also thought, well, who else would really be asking this? Whatever. Cool. Back to school or seeing some friends. But having those big questions, putting that out there into the universe, with my first passion being psychology, then being prompted to go pre-med when I was encouraged by a close friend when a course fell through. And because I kept thinking, what more is out there? And when I found out about this medicine, this literally embodied the fact that there's no magic pill, that first visits with people are about an hour. So really having that relationship, that this is the thing that you can go to when, you don't feel as energetic or you feel off. Because sure, we have our diagnosis and, we do need to accommodate conventional medicine. But for me, I'm like, well, let's talk about your vivid dreams. The spin I've put on it is let's bring in all the spirituality, work that into not just mind, body, but also the soul. So it really provided such a platform. And that's what I'm just so passionate about, just such a way to keep learning and keep growing.
Awesome. That's a lot. And I mean, and seems obviously you were in school for a while and you've learned a lot and you could have gone in a lot of different directions, but you chose, I like that you have chosen, a path that allows for you, really allows for connection with the people that you are servicing. It's not just like, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to just give you this pill, this prescription, go take this and get out, sort of looking at your clock to like, see how many people you can get in and out. But the fact that you care about connecting to your patients is really awesome. And I really, that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yes. And that's part of where too, like, I know there's a saying that the universe has your back, but it's like what you put out there, you know, like it's there. We just can't put a timeline on things. Just like our body's not really on a timeline or the one that we always want.
Yeah. Yeah. We just want it to be like, well, I don't feel good. So like, I want to be healed today. Heal me now.
Or my favorite. So can't this all go away yesterday? Like really type A.
Like, no, it can't. Like, so let's talk about, physiological intuition. And how do you help your clients discover theirs?
Yeah. So this is something I wound up discovering in practice. So talking about the fact there's no magic pill. However, what I did realize over the years, and this was part of my own personal journey, was how do I even begin to broach this idea and talk about it when I'm surrounded by so-called magic pills and quick fixes everywhere? And also in my own journey was a lot of weight-related concerns, underlying eating disorders, mental health, hormone concerns. Like it was all in this big picture. But I never really received a diagnosis for it, which again kind of tipped me off of like, wait, we're more than just so-called fitting in a box, so to speak. And when I started my practice, I was like, great, I'm primary care, I can help everyone. Until I realized my passion was actually really about hormones and the whole endocrine system. So then I began specializing in weight and hormones, which of course I truly resonated with and enjoyed so much more because, did I know it so well for many years. And like many, I also began running cleanses. They seemed great. It was also easily marketable. And not that there was anything wrong with it, because I get it. Everyone's on their own journey. But I also knew somewhere deep down, well, what was going to happen after? And that was also a lot of my life, is that whatever we put effort into something, or let's say go to school or get a certificate or work with someone, what are your plans after? Having that, just some sort of an idea.
Right.
So what was happening was after I was running these cleanses, now everyone's saying, well, what do we do after? We don't want to be, eating like pureed veggies or, whatever it was for the rest of our lives. Yeah. What do we do on vacation? What do we do on holidays? Will this fix my blood work? Now can I get off my medication? And I began realizing that, wait a second, even though I always got a little insecure talking about the magic, that there was really no, so rather, I was now getting the questions, what do we do after? So from looking at my own life to now, as my practice started to grow and people started coming in saying, I've tried everything, the stacks of all the functional tests, the 50 plus supplements that were now like exploding out of their cupboards.
Right.
There's this wanting, this bringing order to chaos. And in my own deep dives, I began noticing certain behavioral patterns of like, what are we trying to control versus letting go, which actually correlates. There's a whole spiritual cause of disease. So the more open I was becoming into understanding, just the many reasons of weight beyond physiology, because there's also the of what are you holding on to emotionally from, then correlating that to chakras, which are energy centers throughout the body. So we have at least 7 on the inside. Then there's upwards as many as over 100, but those tend to be outside of our physical vessel. Those physical concerns that can throw off those energy imbalances, again, are correlated to how are we handling ourselves on the day-to-day, who's in our life, what are our relationships like, self-expression, all of that. So now I'm really drifting into, oh my God, wait a second, maybe if we have health concerns, it's not just about eating a vegetable, but what if there are lessons attached to it? So to me, physiological intuition meant we're taking all the meanings of what chakras could be, looking at karma, whether it's our own karma or what's been passed down through our ancestors, because we do tend to carry or can carry at least 7 generations behind us.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is our body doing? So, for example, the fat cell actually has to gain enough trust. So before it fully drops the so-called weight, it retains water, which,
Mm-hmm.
yes, so water is important, but it needs to feel safe in order to drop the water. And I began realizing all these, I guess, euphemisms, like balanced hormones, balanced life,
Mm-hmm.
finding that with the spiritual cause of disease, 2 chakras. And it was like, oh my God, our symptoms are so beyond just physical. So when I, was coining the term or really going into that deep dive of what does it really mean, is our symptoms are more than just physical. We need to understand and then trust our own intuition. Because if a symptom pops up, which I began to see in practice too, it may not just be physical related. It could be someone appearing in someone's life that's not healthy, a thought.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, as we work through it and it goes away, well, the way it was expressed was through our body, but the etiology was actually not purely physical.
Yeah, I think that is that's a very interesting way to look at it. And it actually, I think that, obviously if you go to just a regular primary care doctor, I mean, they're not going to necessarily be able to help you get down to like the exact reason. So just using, since we were talking about weight, say maybe let's use that as continue down that road. I mean, if you think about it, like you said, a lot of times people you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this cleanse and I'm going to cleanse for 30 days and I'm going to lose this weight. And like you said, it's like, what happens after the 30 days? How do you shift your mind to say that, yes, I did that I guess what most people would say is like a jump start or something, right? And then, but what happens after that? Have you figured out like a meal plan, or have you figured out like all the things, like what makes me eat anyway? Why do I eat? Why do I eat like so many times a day? Or why don't I stop eating when I'm like full and I know I'm full? So I think this is so interesting because it helps people, like you said, it helps you get to that emotional piece of like what's actually driving you to do the thing or to continue to be perhaps unhealthy in a way that is causing damage to your body or harming your body.
Exactly. And I love that you even picked up on how it helps. You're right. It does bridge the gap into like, okay, let's look at other reasons. And one of the things it also made me think of, especially, is, of course, I am more than happy to keep the focus on weight and just, it's one of the most, I was actually about to say irritating, because in some ways it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like what makes us have the most patience is weight loss over the long term. And one of the things I had to realize, because that was my journey, is that, oh my God, I've done the cleanses, the diets, and each time, oh, I hoped it just stick. Like, why can't it just stick this final time? Why can't I be skinny and pretty, but I can still have a plate of nachos and not worry? Did I want to just, how many ways can I?
Right. Yeah.
My body, except your body is not split. There really are never cheat days, because your mind may say it is, but your body's like, no, it's still going in the same vessel.
Exactly.
So there was no way of rationalizing around it as much as I would want, which means taking responsibility. On the flip side, I also began noticing over the years, which severely pissed me off, was that every time I'd lose weight, there was an emotional reason, which meant I had to work through my own shit. And that is not fun.
Yeah. No.
Or it's too wild to
not
think of it as fun, but like, okay, but it's going to bring a greater reward.
Right.
And then realizing I'm Saturn ruled. So, and Saturn's like the granddaddy karma planet. So I have lost track of the amount of times I have tried fighting with my own karma, my own reasoning, trying to sidestep. I just began embracing that, wait a second, anything that truly meant something in my life, I was patient for and followed my own intuition. And because then also too, what happens after the cleanse, I think as you've sort of alluded, is that, well, how can we also feel if the weight comes back? And that's a big, again, cleanse is not going to address our body image. If anything, it will probably make it worse, because then even if like 2 pounds come back, the stress of that, it's actually probably going to mess up our system even.
Yeah, that's very true. I do. Yeah. I think too, as a person who in my adult years has been like up, down, and, and then you finally just have to get to this place of, you have to look at all the things, because the facts are that, yes, as we get older, yes, our bodies do change. Yes, it is a little bit harder for you to like maintain, you may not be the weight you were when you were in college or high school or whatever. But I think that, you also have to give yourself grace. And like you said, instead of saying like, oh, it's a cheat day, I'm going to have a cheat day. I mean, if you're going to have nachos, just say, I'm going to have nachos on Saturday. You know what? I'm going to have nachos on Saturday because I eat very clean during the week. And on Saturday, that's the day that I like to indulge in something that I really enjoy. and I think a lot of people don't, do that. Like you said, it's the cheat day.
Right. And sometimes, it's being aware too. And I've done this is like, then same thing. So I love Mexican food. I feel like super easy. And then too, when was there ever a dull Mexican restaurant? Like,
right.
It just makes me feel festive,
Yes.
like I'm celebrating something, so that, things to add some ambiance in there. And what it takes too to just say, and I was even going to say too, or I could just say, I just want to enjoy a plate of nachos, and that's it. And just take responsibility. So that was another pattern, I began seeing, is wait, what are we taking responsibility for in life? Or how much per se are we blaming others or blaming society or blaming without even realizing it? Yeah. But if we're saying, hey, this is what I feel like having, and it's okay, sure, that, if you eat healthy other days, but let that be part of a very neutral energy. So then also you're not judging yourself. Right. And it will also let you really be more attuned to, okay, well, let's say if I want to get off a plateau, if I want to do something different, if I see food and everything is neutrally and fueling the body, because that's the thing, we know a lot. It's just a matter of, so here's now we're getting more into that bridge of what emotions and what have we been told in the past, and, all of those attachments.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so how, with your clients, how do you start? Like, what is an appointment like with you? What's the first step someone takes to, sort of not just looking at maybe the ailment or the reason that they think they came through the door, but how do you get to that deeper understanding of like what's driving it?
Oh, of course. Well, and of course, usually the reason people walk in is never the soul,
right.
Which I love, because it's like deep down, they know it too. But whatever brings them in, and then it's like through our dynamic, creating that space so they can feel comfortable to share. Of course, even too as the visits go on. So I always have people book a 20-minute call with me, also to make sure that we are the right fit. that our views are aligned, because a lot of my patients, so while now I'm in San Francisco, I had my practice in New York City for about 6.5 years. And a lot of my patients were high-powered New Yorkers.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. They wanted to lose weight. They wanted to be healthy, which is ultimately, really what it was. And more importantly, a sense of confidence and a freedom in their own skin. Because they also had their hopes, their dreams. They wanted to go out. They didn't want to worry so much anymore, because again, they needed their energy, or wanted their energy maybe to a new venture or a new position, all those different effects. So as we established, they were going to be dedicated. We're going to look at everything because there really is no work-life health balance. We're going to make all your habits congruent. Because chances are, if you're, let's say, doing a cheat day in your meals, where else in life are you having a cheat day as well? So, bringing that awareness into where you're trying to sidestep an assignment or blame someone else for a snafu, whatever it is. So now coming into the first visit, so everything is online, my patient portals, any supplements I'd recommend. That said, not tied to any brand. So again, truly customized to the person. And then we just start with, what has been your weight related journey? What are your frustrations? What's worked? What hasn't? So then we get to really lay out everything and say, what could we also use? What have you learned? As part of that potential plan moving forward. And also, when did it all start? And a lot of the times we'll start going into the childhood, things, what they were told growing up. So we're really getting this life story that's coming with it. That, as a doctor, yes, I do want to know your past medical history and your family's history and all that. But what I'm actually listening for as well is, where are the chakras, both in your past medical history and in your family's history as well. So that's going to help tune me into which organ system we're kind of looking at first. Is it more stress related, like the adrenals, or if there was a lot of hormone stuff, or even a history of birth control, or maybe cancers in the family. Maybe we really do a deep dive into the liver, because that's really big, hormones, thyroid, blood sugar. If there's a big history of heart disease, maybe I'll angle a few more therapies towards the heart chakra, because I'll hear a lot of that there's no love, there's no self-acceptance. I was seeing a lot of, which I still do, and I'm sure that's part of my history, but mental health, pretty much. Well, every other person was coming in on at least a psych med. So if I'm hearing a lot of anxiety, depression, mood, especially in the family, we're going to start with more mindset. Sure, a few dietary, but chances are there's really blocks in trust and intuition, because that's your third eye. That's your knowing. So in my own experience and my own intuition, I'm just mindful of these patterns. So then, of course, when we get into okay, sleep, what does a general day look like for you? So it's really a very comprehensive hour. And so that treatment plan is, what's that biggest obstacle to cure? Again, this is going to look different for everyone. Maybe it's the fact that there's no water throughout the day. And so that has to be the biggest focus, even before I touch someone's diet, because maybe they're just so scattered. Or again, maybe there's no trust and they just hate the way they look. And we just have to, what you said, love, give yourself that grace. Maybe that needs to be part of the, really in the first visit, because how are they also going to live with themselves day to day as this process goes. So it gets creative as well. And then consecutive visits. And one of the things I say too is, whenever I recommend supplements, it's never a monthly cost, and it shouldn't be. Yes, we know to take vitamin D is like the most basic. But if we are putting them in, know that we're ramping some up to really address something. But because I expect healing and I do expect lifestyle changes, there is a weaning off. So again, supplements are there is a little boost.
Yes.
Where eventually patients may say, oh, I love this flower essence, or I love this homeopathic, where then it becomes they're now excited to take it rather than
right. Yeah.
So then consecutive visits are, I find realizations pop up because we're creating so much presence. And then as they're sharing certain things with me, whether that they're feeling or maybe they realize the craving went away. So I say, yeah, that's your body changing. So now they get so much more attuned to more ways their body is speaking to them than just the, by the you feel a symptom.
Yeah.
So there's this clarity. And I've had patients say that they've never learned so much about their body until they work with me. And my goal is, of course, I love to work with people forever, but usually and they know is when they say, okay, we're good. Maybe we go on a maintenance plan. Maybe they come back and check in. Maybe they go off on their own. But it's a beautiful process. And I just love being able to be there as the guide for people.
Yeah, and I love the whole program, but I like that you help people to see an end, right? So it's not like you're just planning on like somebody just coming forever. You help people to find to hear from their body, to get that clarity they need, and also to help them build a maintenance plan for success for their lives. And so that they are able to like go and, live successfully while maintaining. Because I think something you said about like with the supplements, like you're not putting someone on supplements for them to be there forever. You're putting someone there to have that jump start for them to, because I think people get really excited, like you said, when you start to see things change. And you start to, whether it's somebody, that didn't feel well, now they have more energy and they're like, wow, look, who knew I could feel like this? Or someone that may, lose weight. And, seeing people get to that place, I find that oftentimes it's like when you start to see the changes because you know that you're putting in the work to make the change, then you become so much more excited about like doing it. And like, oh yeah, like, you're doing it because you want to be healthy. You're not, you want to live a long time. You want to feel good. And it's not just about like, I want to do this and lose 20 pounds so I can get in this dress next month. Like, you have to think so far beyond that, because if you're in that mindset, then you're going to always be like repeating that same cycle over and over.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And, same thing, like my weight has fluctuated. And so I'm about 5 feet. And I was always like, well, it's funny. So I was a competitive gymnast. So I joke, my weight started afterwards. But, always fluctuating like those 5-10 pounds. And the way I would just try to hold on to wherever I was. And I didn't know what metabolism was. I did gymnastics. I was eating like, like a 6-foot teenage male, and then in med school it was my second year. So there was a lot of stress that year. And also it was now stepping into, we were learning diagnostics. We were learning, well, let me put it this way. We're the first year basic science where pretty much everyone comes to school in sweatpants. Like that's the joke that we do the first year. They also still look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It's like hoodies, sweatpants, like it's just science, But it was coming into second year that it was like, oh my God, like I'm in medical school, and it really and I gained about 30 pounds in 3.5 months. And this was the first time my clothes straight up did not fit. And the thing is, so we also have at least 7 different defense mechanisms to help keep us, let's say, from having a total breakdown. No, we can't override those. Clearly,
yeah.
But I'll never forget thinking, I mean, so I know I made some excuses like, before then, but now this was, I noticed a little weight gain, but now because I know with sleep, it renews your hormones, and then you have like longer, because you're sleeping generally for like, 7 to 9 hours, and you have time to digest. Well, maybe if I just go to sleep, I'll sleep the weight off. Oh my God. I had so many excuses, so many I wanted to deny what was happening because I didn't want to deal with it, because my life was so-called too stressful. Really just a whole journey. Because then, of course, to the part, I was in my mid-20s. I wasn't super old, but it was only when I did start with the long-term, really just, I was seeing naturopathic doctors too. And not only was I getting the saliva test, testing hormones and cortisol and all that, but it was the long term. And that actually, wound up keeping the weight off till probably around my late 20s. So now I'm back in the city with my practice. But even though I still felt some of the stuff coming back, one of the other big pieces was that kind of why I stopped doing cleanses was, where is my truth taking me next? So when that was another like, oh shit, my weight really is spiritual based, is it? And then I began my awakenings like not that long after, and that just opened up a whole can of. And I think what you were alluding to before, which I love, is that, oh my God, could we even talk about self-worth? Food is nourishment. Yeah. And can we say, I want this? And even if it's not in our 3D reality yet, can we believe that it is there for us? A whole other, top way of looking at health and weight. But it's, well, I was going to say scary, but it's so freeing. That's what I've noticed too, is there's actually like, that can even be a little unnerving, is to realize when we take responsibility. So yeah, it's, I'm just like, the way we can connect the dots, but looking at health from just a much broader perspective.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that is that's awesome, because I mean, you have to. Like you have to look at all the factors. I mean, it's not just what you physically feel, but there's so much more. It's, your attitude towards it. Like you said, it's your the responsibility, or you holding yourself accountable, especially when it comes to things like weight, because that's the first thing. Like you said, I thank you for the transparency and telling your story, because I think that's really important, because I think we all do that. We all, like, you start gaining, like you have this moment and you gain like 5 pounds, and you could sort of like, oh, okay, that's 5, I can get that back off. You get to 10 and you notice it, because by the time you get to 15, you are going to see a shift in your clothing. Almost, it's going to be like, not as loose as it was, or doesn't fit. And then and as you creep up and you gain more, a lot of times it's just like you said, people just shut down and don't want to deal with it. Like, I can't deal with this. But the shutting down and not dealing with it, often you might shut down like mentally, but most people you're still like eating, still taking in the food, because you just like, you have a defense up, but at the same time, you're just like, your defense is to keep eating and to say like, it's not, I can't deal with this. So when you do own up to it, because and you look at this last year, right? A lot of people are now sort of coming back around and going, yep, I gained those pounds during COVID and quarantine, and got that extra weight. And it's like own up, just own that. like I gained it. Now I would like to lose it because I don't want it on, I don't want it on me. But I think that you're right. The first step starts with like taking accountability and being honest with yourself. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't go for help. You can't go to anyone for help because you're going to still be in denial and not able to like talk about like and get to the real root of it.
Yeah. And that's why, too, I found that it could even be so life-changing, and this is what I've seen with patients is that, in working in some of these, so as we talk about, yes, the emotional side and these deeper meanings, which means we, do have to take that responsibility and go inwards, is that at the end of the day, it starts with us. So if we're not honest with ourselves, I guarantee there's other people in the world that you're not honest with either, or completely
Right.
honest. Whether it's your family, your inner circle, to people you work with, and then that relation to the world. So, because humans, we're social beings. So, but again, like how they say, the change in the world starts with us. Bringing that inwards, and it's like, at the end of the day, we are unconditional love. Like that's who we're meant to be. However, we've so-called fallen quite a bit and raised, and again, like, there's a lot of, stuff with our ancestors too. Like, so we're kind of, at this crossroads, especially now, of how can I challenge these beliefs? And is it okay to challenge these beliefs? Because commonly growing up is where so much of it stems from, whether it's the home or with school or with friends. And what did we know? Like, we were kids. We were like love and pure. We just wanted to do good in the world at some point.
Right.
So really shedding those layers, because you're right. What happens when, okay, well, why not notice even when it's 5 pounds and then say, wait a second, let me step back. What could really have been going on? Oh, wait a second. My diet's been a little off for the few days. Maybe it's simply that. Oh, wait, maybe I was arguing with someone, or there were some stressful things at work. Okay, then how can I recalibrate?
Exactly.
And just same thing, keeping that neutral and, catching it is.
Yeah. So I definitely agree. So why don't you let everybody out there know how they can find you online and connect to you?
So the easiest way to connect with me, which is where I have all my social media, I'm very active on Instagram. You'll see Facebook and of course Clubhouse as well. You can search for me. But the portal to all of that is my website. So drserenagoldstein.com. And that's where you can book a 20-minute call with me if you like, and just contact me overall. So
awesome.
That's website, everything's there.
Okay, fantastic. So everybody, you can check the show notes for all her information. I'll make sure we have the links there. All right. Well, this was great. I love this conversation. I think it's always so important to, to like think about like all the factors in like your body, like not just your physical being, but like the spiritual side, the emotional side, like all those things together, like help this vessel, along its journey. So thank you so much for sharing today and being so open and sharing your own personal experiences.
Well, and thank you for having me and really exploring this topic. As I think too, it's such a testament, and what I even had to discover, which actually a lot was last year too, putting those pieces together, is that we are all here for a reason. I believe there's a reason I've been through everything I have. And if I could at least help someone or inspire a thought or say, hey, yes, even a doctor, because I know that carries its own, set of stuff. If I could provide just an iota or that connection and say, hey, like, I get it. I'm ready with you. That's we are in the world. We're all connected.
Exactly. I love that. So before you go, we're going to do 5 things with Dr. Serena. Going to ask you 5 questions about helps us to just get to know you a little bit deeper. So I like to start with how do you start your day?
So when I wake up, I actually don't get out of bed right away.
Mm-hmm.
I visualize what I need to do for the day and how that's going to fit in. The other thing too is that I actually don't do a running list or a tight schedule. I leave a little room for like, what are my 2 or 3 most important things, and then just kind of configure it from there in between appointments. Then, wake up, brush my teeth, all of that. I have actually this huge water bottle. It's like 36 ounces. So warm water, apple cider vinegar, lemon. I make tea every morning, sometimes with some slices of ginger, whether it's herbal or green. Feed the cat. and then I meditate. Just really imagining myself grounded into the earth, and I just be. So that's really like just setting that. How do I want to feel throughout the? Because then when things happen, which they may very well, if I'm now less balanced or less grounded, I'm like, wait, let me get back where I know I'm safe, because I know I've been creating that safety within myself.
Right. Awesome. All right. What's something that motivates you?
My dreaming. I have always been a dreamer. I've always wanted to discover the meaning of life. And the more layers of stuff and stereotypes that I've peeled back. So the biggest motivating factor is whenever I realize I can take responsibility for, was this really stopping me? When I do my own work and my own whatever I need at the time to peel that layer off, and it opens up another clearer thought. Oh my God, I just get so freaking excited about how the world. And so I just get so lit. I'm like, oh, maybe I could teach this. And then I'll start thinking about it. And then I'll bump up against, oh my God, but who's going to want it? Who's going to want it? You know what? No, this is my voice. I'm here for a reason. Another layer just opens up. And here's the worksheets that I'm going to create. Okay, cool. We'll start working that in. So just that scaffolding and that building is knowing we're limitless.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day. So.
Awesome. What's the one thing that you like to do on your day off?
What's a day off? Like, clearly from the East Coast, like I love that you laugh too, because sometimes
right.
Sarcasm. So
that's right.
I guess the joys of making my own schedule. So I would say my true day offs are the weekend. Was definitely a boundary. My other days off per se, so I really only work, like energy goes out 3 days of the week, but then I'm more of like the creative 2 of the days. But with making my own schedule though, sometimes I'll end early. So in that overall, when I feel complete and just, I love going to the local farmer's market, even just walking around. I love taking myself out for coffee and breakfast, or just like a little taste something, walks by the water, maybe doing a dance type class at the gym, because I actually have those really big heels too. So I love I used to be a dance instructor as well. So I love that creative movement. And just, I was almost going to say the basics, but for me, they're just so fulfilling, and and taking yourself out too, because then I love talking to people. So you never know, who's going to come by and say hi.
Is awesome. So what's in your playlist? What's something that you're like a song or that you're listening to or playlist that you're loving right now?
I was going to say like anything off Z100. But that said, I do have like the Alkaline Trio and that like a whole CD of that in my car. But my playlist, my workout playlist, Beyonce, like Eminem, Lose Yourself, Champ by Carrie Underwood. So very like motivating, or Seven Rings by Ariana Grande. Very like, I got this. Coming into like, I got this. This is my life. This is I can do this. So a lot of those type songs, like, Diva, like look at the world.
Yes. Love that. Love that. And last, how do you end the day?
Actually, by intuition. There are times where I've also learned to give myself grace if I don't finish every task or everything that's popped up. Because one of my tells is that if I start getting angry at the person emailing me, that's not their fault. That's me. So that's how I know, there's. In addition to, of course, there are times I go, that was a day well done. And I'll just kind of sit there for a bit, reflect. I've probably seen some synchronicities and think of just to let me know I'm on the right path. And then maybe I'll go for a walk or I'll go to the gym after. And that's usually a really nice, I like going in the morning for a period of time. But I'm like, no, that's my strongest time. But going like late afternoon, was sort of just a really nice, like, get that last bit of energy out, so to speak. So just really that winding down. Because I also, especially now, I actually don't turn on the light when the sun goes down. And sometimes I'll just lay in bed and think. Or like listen to some like uplifting videos on YouTube or something, or like, going on in the astrology, get like a little inspiration.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you for answering those questions. It always is just pretty cool to sort of dig into a little bit more. They're a little bit more personal, I would say. We get to know you. We get to know you a little bit better. So thank you again, Dr. Serena, for joining the podcast. This was great. You always have a home here to come back if you want to share more in the future. So best of luck to you and everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much, and so enjoyed being on here as well.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.